Thank you all for joining Did You Know, the ESCO HVAC show. So we've spent a lot of time diving into new technologies and directions our industry are going to, and we have all four actually been at the 2023 AHR Expo, and wow, everything we have been preaching for the last few months is right in our laps. We have seen so many manufacturers that are preparing for these changes. We have seen industry professionals that are really diving into the fundamentals of change and the fundamentals of incentives. And now we are starting to look at how do we prepare our industry for all of these transitions. So as we dive into our educating our workforce, the thing we have to pay a lot of attention to is how do we conquer our national skills gap? Because our industry really hasn't been changing at a pace that is consistent with many other industries that have similar functions. We've talked about the automotive industry and how things have really changed in that world, and the technicians have been well prepared for that. Now, when we get into the HVAC industry, we've seen a lot of things happen in like commercial industrial. As we get into residential, not quite so much. So how do we bring awareness to the excitement and the opportunities that are in this residential HVAC and refrigeration industry? Well, if we look back about when we were younger, and many of us were very hands-on and very explorative in the things that were around us. Now, depending on the generation that you grew up, this may have been promoted, it might not have been promoted. Some of us took that direction and made careers out of it. And one of the things that we have seen, especially in this last generation of our community, is that our young people are looking for opportunities to change the world that they live in. And they're realizing the importance of doing things with your hands again, which we've gotten away for a little while. And we'll dive into that with a little bit of personal experiences and some professional evaluation of that. So what we're starting to see is some shifts in our technicians. We are moving slightly away from the blue collar jobs into more of a green collar job where we have an awareness of the environment around us and how we can impact the future. So all of our skilled trades have been moving into very advanced opportunities to use not only our hands, but our brains and new skill sets to make a difference in the world we live in. So today we're joining Scott Shaw from Lincoln Tech. Scott, thank you so much for being with us.
Thanks for having me. Appreciate being here.
It's a great opportunity to learn about one of the largest technical educational experiences that we have in our country. Scott, how many locations do we have around the United States?
Sure. So Lincoln has 22 campuses in 14 states. And of those 22 campuses, we have maybe I should know the exact number, but it's around 14 that offer HVAC as a program.
So what caught my attention the most? Now, we work with all of your institutions that have HVAC programs. And we have a lot of educators that have utilized the HVAC excellence opportunities for certifying, and the programs are all accredited through HVAC excellence. Now, the thing that I found when I was diving a little deeper was some aspects of your training programs that I wasn't really aware of. If we think about HVAC and refrigeration, because we all go together, the refrigeration is the side that I didn't realize how much you have already stepped into the advancements in technology. When I found this one particular picture, I had to step back for a minute and go, oh my goodness. In one picture, I have been both of these gentlemen working on that exact same piece of machinery. In the refrigeration world, they also went through a transition, and it's been a little while ago. I first worked on one of those protocols probably 8 or 9 years ago. And when that was introduced into the refrigeration industry, it changed a lot of technicians' perspectives, because that one piece of equipment would be a replacement for a larger rack system that was in a mechanical room. So we had to learn a lot of new technologies. It was very innovative, and I could work on that machine. I could diagnose that machine from my couch if I needed to, because every input, every output, on that one particular piece of machinery, I've probably got 50 to 60 different sensors, and then all of the additional components that are connected to it. I could read and monitor every one of those. I could measure wattage off from motors and off from compressors. I could analyze the system performance of that piece of machine completely remote. So we had things to learn. And then a few years later, I was teaching younger generations how we can work on that, other people coming in, learning the new technology. So it was a lot of shared information, and it adapted very quickly if you enjoyed technology. This is what I thought was extremely interesting. How long have you had this partnership with Hussmann?
We've had it now 6 years. And basically, we started it because it's basically a mini graduate school for our students.
Yeah.
Hussmann, like everyone else, is struggling to find people.
Yep.
But unlike a lot of other companies, Hussmann's really willing to put some money behind it.
Okay.
So we worked with them to create this program whereby students graduate from our HVAC program, and then they qualify and enroll. And those that get selected can go into this Tech X program for Hussmann.
Okay.
And all they do during these 8 weeks is to work on Hussmann's equipment, as well as get be made aware of the Hussmann philosophy and their culture, and so that they can really start upon graduation right in the organization from day one, out in the field, working with other Hussmann technicians to make a difference.
So they're coming through your programs, learning all of the fundamentals of refrigeration, electrical, getting all the philosophies, and then we move into a specialized training by a manufacturer so that they can advance their education on specific pieces of equipment.
Yes. Yes. And in fact, what we did is I'm actually down here in Texas right now at our Grand Prairie campus
fantastic.
where the Hussmann location is. I try to be inside the room, but it's near our welding area. And so
Right. Oh, I imagine
just
there's a lot going on.
But yeah, within that class, it's a large classroom. It's around, I think, 3,500 square feet, and it has all their latest technologies. And so they're introducing the students to everything that they would need to know to work on Hussmann specific information. Again, our students have gone through, frankly, a generic HVAC refrigeration program. So they've learned about heating systems in homes and heating systems in offices and things of that nature. But then this Hussmann program gives them those specific skills. And it's a great program because the students don't pay anything for it.
Sure.
Hussmann is paying for the program. And we're relocating students from any of our programs across the country to this location, and Hussmann pays for their lodging and their transportation while they're here. So it's a great opportunity. And again, I'm really excited by Hussmann because they're putting that extra money into these students to give them the skills to be hired by Hussmann. So many companies are just kind of sitting on the sidelines, kind of waiting. I kind of say they think it's Home Depot, that they can just go down the shelf and pick out the student that has all the right skills, perfect for their company. And it's just not reality.
No, not at all. And in our industry, this feels like this is a new experience. Eugene, did you encounter many opportunities to have educational programs like this when that was your world?
You know what? We actually, when I was directing my program in New York, before my students could graduate, they needed to do 120 hours of interning with local contractors.
Okay, sure.
So they didn't have the opportunity to partner with manufacturers. And I think this is great.
Yeah.
But it's really, really important because, as Scott alluded to, we're really teaching our students the fundamentals in school.
Right.
And then each company, whether it's a contractor or it's a manufacturer, they're going to teach their new hires the way that particular company functions and the way we want our new hires to work, what protocols we have in place, what procedures we have in place. So, I mean, what Lincoln is doing with Hussmann is amazing. And the way I always spoke about it to my local contractors who are hiring the graduates for my program, you're basically getting a 120-hour free interview.
Yeah.
You're able to interview my student for 120 hours minimum to see what they know, to see what they do, to see if they fit into the culture that you have at your company.
Sure.
And after the 120 hours, well, it doesn't even have to be. It could be after 20 hours. Say, you know what? This candidate is not right for me. Can I swap? Can I do an even exchange? So, and will connect the employer with another graduate. Well, they haven't graduated the program yet.
Sure.
So it's really, really important, but not only for a Hussmann or a contractor to see if that student or graduate is right for them. It's also a two-way street.
Sure.
So
To make
a
sure that that's the
manufacturer might
environment
say,
that the student is going to be
yeah.
spending their career in.
And this
Yep.
is, I mean, there's no, okay, so a husband might say, okay, well, this student is great. We want to offer them employment once they go through this Tech X program.
Yeah.
But what students and what technicians who are listening to us today, they need to realize that when you are interviewing for a position, the company is interviewing you,
At the same time.
but you should be interviewing the company as well. It has to be a
Absolutely.
fit. And if both sides agree, and the vetting process for the Hussmann program is probably very competitive, and it's probably very selective. I don't know all the details of
Sure.
how you pick me. Obviously, I'm assuming this is not open to all of your graduates.
You are correct,
It's a
Eugene.
very limited program,
Sure.
Yep.
but I think this is a dynamite opportunity to help some of the better employers in our industry connect with some of the better graduates of these programs. It's just a dynamite program.
And Scott, from our perspective in our industry, we've not seen this a lot. We've not seen these partnerships between our educational institutions and the manufacturers that are constructing the equipment. And some of that relies on the ability for an educational institution to stay up to date because our equipment didn't change.
Mm-hmm.
So we were able to maintain a linear progression of our programs and not have to really fast forward to stay up with how things are being manufactured. Relatively new in our industry, so I love seeing that initiative that you've taken. Now, what about in other aspects? When we talk about this happening in the refrigeration sector, we also find that this is not a new trend for most industries. It's only relatively new for ours. So can you tell us a little bit about how that has progressed through the entire Lincoln Tech?
Sure. So we want to partner with as many companies as possible, as we view ourselves as having basically two clients. One is the student who comes to us because they want to find a great career. And the second are the employers who are desperate to find people with the right skills. And those skills are both hard skills and more soft skills as well, which I'm sure we'll touch on at some point. So in order to provide the best education possible and the most relevant education possible, we work with these different companies. So for example, Lincoln started off as an automotive and HVAC training organization, with automotive being our largest offering out there. And so we work with a lot of the OEMs to provide, again, this kind of like graduate level of training.
Exactly.
We give them overall generic training of how to fix everything within a car, but what is in a Ford is different than what's in a Toyota, which is different than what's in a Mazda, might be a little bit different than in a Dodge or Audi or BMW. And now it's not on this. We also are partnered with Tesla we're the only proprietary school offering Tesla training right now out in our Denver campus. But these companies, what they do is they open up their training to us so that we send our faculty to be trained just as any high-level technician at Toyota or Mazda would be trained. And then we provide a solid entry-level form of training to our students in that particular area. And some students, frankly, they go through this training and don't necessarily go to that particular OEM, but they have a higher level of understanding of equipment. And frankly, if you go through the BMW program, you can go to work at most any other high-end car company and have a leg up. And they provide us with equipment. They provide us with their philosophies of how they get things done. And it creates a very exciting learning environment and enables the student to enter a dealership, frankly, at a higher level because the dealerships make their money through the warranty work.
Sure.
And in order to do warranty work, you have to be certified. And so
Yes.
the sooner you can go through all the certification levels, the sooner you're really adding value to that dealership. So by partnering with these OEMs, we're able to accelerate that process. So again, it's a win-win for students and really helps launch their career. I do want to highlight a couple of other things on here besides the car companies.
Yeah,
You'll see that we
definitely.
have a partnership here with NASA, because we do CNC training for manufacturing, and at our Mahwah campus, all of our students have to sign a piece of paper. They become NASA employees because they make components that NASA then sends up to the International Space Station. So that's kind of an exciting little side gig for those students. And then right beneath that is the FPSA, which is the Food Processing Association. And this organization came to us because, again, like everyone else, they cannot find enough technicians to support all the equipment in their manufacturing facilities. So again, we sat down and worked with them, and they take both of our electrical students and frankly our HVAC students. We give them some additional skills, additional higher level PLC training, how some hydraulics work, how some pneumatics work, and they come out with a certification that we created with the FPSA so that all the members of FPSA know that a student that has the FIT certification from Lincoln has a certain skill set that they as an organization have signed off on, so that again just makes it easier transition for an employer to find talent that they know has an understanding of their industry, but also has an understanding of the equipment within their industry.
And that
Scott,
is so
I'm going to jump
ahead.
in real quick because
Yeah, go ahead.
you just touched on some super important things, and obviously, when you deal with the automotive industry, there are a lot of manufacturers, and each of those manufacturers have dozens and dozens of models. And I joke about this with one of my cousins, and he's a neurosurgeon. And I joke, and he jokes with me because he says I'm an HVAC guy. And I said, Paul, you work on 2 models. You work on males and females. I said, we work on dozens of manufacturers, and each of those manufacturers have dozens of models. So we work on thousands of models, and you work on 2. And another thing you brought up, Scott, that's really, really important is there are careers for HVAC people in the pharmaceutical industry, in the manufacturing. One of my graduate students was working for a major pharmaceutical manufacturer in Brooklyn, and when you buy enteric pills, coated pills,
absolutely,
those pills are coated basically in a chiller. They're spraying this cold,
very low ambient atmosphere
in what looks like a cement mixer, and when the chiller went down
with the pharmaceutical process.
Pills. They were losing $1 million a day because the chiller went down. In a manufacturing facility, I see you have a logo for Haas there.
Yes.
So a lot of the materials that need to be machined and need to be 3D printed, those materials need to be at certain temperatures. So you might be storing steel outside, but that steel needs to be brought up to temperature before it can be machined. So there are HVAC guys, there are refrigeration guys, there are heating guys that are involved in the pharmaceutical industries, in the machining, in so many different industries. So it's like, oh, I'm in the HVAC industry, but I work for a pharmaceutical company.
Sure.
So,
well, Howard, that's your topic right there.
Well, if you're talking about my rant as far as COVID goes,
yes, I was dragging it out. Yes, I was.
So when COVID was declared a pandemic, I started writing a series of articles trying to point out how we were the center of every story, and no one saw it.
No.
I ended up writing an article for HVACR Business. I'll just share some with you. Most of us, when we walk into a grocery store, all we see is food. But us in the industry, we see a network of refrigeration equipment. How did it get there? From the dairy, meat packing plant. We were declared essential because the food distribution in this country was dependent upon it. Most of us, when we walk into a hospital, what do we see? See doctors and nurses. We don't realize there's airborne infection isolation rooms, specialty HVAC technicians that basically help prevent the spread of infectious diseases. We started seeing articles about how we're going to transport these vaccines at these ultra low temperatures. That was also the HVAC industry.
That's right.
But I think one that's just glowing in everyone's face, how are we doing this now? How are we all having meetings online? How did we go to school online? We could talk about all the different business conferencing platforms. They operate through a data center. And the number one cost of running that is cooling it. So I could spend hours talking to people.
Yeah.
COVID, which people won't forget for years, is the best advertisement for the HVAC industry if you just think about all the things we do. One last thing on that.
Yes.
When COVID was declared a pandemic, there's 700 different job categories that are classified by the Bureau of Labor Statistics. Only 17 were declared as essential and told to go to work. So while everyone else was told to stay home, we were told to go to work.
Yeah, absolutely.
Just on that, I agree 100% with everything that was just said. And on top of that, I just like the word essential workers. It's helping to raise the stature of a lot of people that just, unfortunately, as a country, we've kind of pushed aside. But unfortunately, when all of a sudden we're faced with this reality that if our phone's not working, our internet's not working, we don't have heat, we can't, Amazon can't deliver what we ordered because their trucks aren't working. We realize that there are a lot of people out there doing very important work that we probably took for granted previously, but now people are realizing, hey, this is a real job. This isn't going away. A robot's not going to take it. You can't outsource it to some other place. And these are good, solid opportunities for individuals.
Well, Scott, you're right. Skilled trades can't be exported, automated. When we keep seeing tens of thousands of layoffs in the tech sector every day, every trade that you represent is currently hiring. And those jobs are not only not being laid off, they're in demand and they're essential. And I think it's important that, people like to beat up on the trades. I like to remind people we're essential, number one. Number two, I've been both white collar and blue collar and now green collar, Clifton.
That's right.
The only difference is do you shower in the morning or the evening or both.
That's right.
Most
Such a good
people I know in the
analogy.
trades make far more than their counterparts that went to a traditional 4-year school.
But this is great though, because a lot of the people, Howard, you mentioned during COVID that, that we are deemed essential. So you heard about a lot of people losing their jobs.
Yeah.
And because people aren't going out to restaurants and people. So I'm assuming that a lot of these people who had less than high skill jobs were now saying, wow, you know what? I need to get retrained.
Yeah.
I need to learn a career. I need to learn a skill where if and when this happens again, I'm not going to be one of those people who has their jobs eliminated.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
So it's the Lincoln Techs of the world that had their doors open and said, well, come join us. We will help prepare you for a career that's not going to be eliminated. That is, again, as we said a few times, is essential.
Well, Eugene, you and I have talked about this. I think part of the problem is kids are told to follow their dreams, but sometimes their dream is to be a marine biologist. They happen to live in Kansas where there's no ocean. There's a program and they're unemployed, okay? Sometimes we need to follow our dreams with facts. The Bureau of Labor Statistics says 20% of all jobs require a 4-year degree. That means 80% don't. I challenge everyone watching today, when you're driving around, start thinking about when you look at a building, there's a CVS, there's a pharmacy, there's one pharmacist. How many pharmaceutical techs are there? Where do they go to school? A trade school, a community college. How about the dentist? One dentist, 3 hygienists. We could play this game all day long. The question is, do they go to a trade school, community college, apprenticeship, military, university? I'm going to tell you more often than not, university is actually the least. People need to look more at trade schools. Those are the jobs that aren't being exported, automated. You're going to have a great career.
And you can go through much faster with less debt. So
absolutely. And those opportunities have increased, is that less debt scenario.
Scott, I don't know if you've ever done this, but I've seen a couple diagrams where people show 2 people at 18 and then they show them again at 28. And the 18-year-old took 5 years to go through school and they owe $160,000 in debt. The other one, they have no debt. They're already working. And by the time they're 28, the blue collar person's out earning their white collar counterpart. And I think what people forget is they look at, oh, you went to school for a trade school for 1 year and that's all you make. They're looking at them 1 year in, not 5 years out. They're earning and learning at the same time versus the other one who's just still incurring more debt.
Absolutely.
Yep. And you can go beyond just whatever you enter the field into, because obviously you could have, we have a lot of students that want to have their own truck, so they end up having their own business. There's some that are even more successful and they might have 12 trucks with 12 different people. I mean, where you go with the skill is really up to you, because the demand is so strong out there. If you're really entrepreneurial and really ambitious, you can have a great career for yourself and your family, a great way of life.
Well, we pointed out earlier, most people think of just the residential technician path. They don't think about the fact you might work in an oil refinery or
Absolutely.
a hospital, pharmaceutical company, or become a teacher like Eugene did. All four of us were just at a conference with 50,000 people, most of who do not work in the field. They do other supporting roles. So
Other aspects of the
big industry.
Absolutely. Mm-hmm. Well, tell us a little bit about how we got to the point that we are, Scott. How did
Sure.
Lincoln Tech get into this environment where we are catering to the trades of the industry?
Absolutely. Appreciate the opportunity. Well, Lincoln started in 1946 by a gentleman by the name of Warren Davies, and he was a veteran, and he was working in the VA, and they were looking for solutions to help other people returning from the war get back
Sure.
into the civilian workforce.
Job
And at
placement.
that time, two of the new technologies that were out there were automatic transmissions
Yeah.
and air conditioning.
Oh,
And so he started training individuals of how to repair automatic transmissions, as well as how to install and maintain air conditioning systems. And so it was a family-owned operation. He started off in Newark, New Jersey. We're still headquartered in New Jersey. And then over the years, he expanded and went into other states. And we added expanded both the automotive into diesel and collision repair. And on the skilled trade side, we added electrical, and recently we added welding and CNC manufacturing. And then about 18, 20 years ago, we added a third division of the company, which is focused on medical, basically training people to be either licensed practical nurses or medical assistants.
absolutely.
And we expanded into 14 states with 22 campuses, but our focus is always on short programs that get students in and out. And I just want to give this example, if you don't mind.
Yeah,
Our
no, please
programs,
do.
let's say, are about 1,000 hours in length.
Mhm.
If you go to a traditional college, the way it works is a semester is 15 weeks. And a traditional student who's going to get around 12 credits is going to have 15 contact hours with an instructor. So in a typical semester at college, you spend 225 hours with a teacher. So if you go for 2 semesters a year, you're going 450 hours. And then you have the summer off, and then you come back in the fall, you forget what you learned, and you kind of start the process all over again. So in 2 years, you get 900 hours of training.
Yeah.
We'll offer that 900 hours of training in about 12 months because we
Okay.
don't have the long breaks, because our students aren't looking for an experience. They're looking for a way to get skills to
Sure.
support themselves and their families. And so they're coming more hours in the day. So instead of 15 hours in a week, they're maybe going to come now 24 hours in a week, but they're going to come more frequently and get in and get out quickly. So the philosophy is, how do we give students relevant skills to get them the job? Well, we figured the best way to do it is by having trained professionals train our students. So all of our faculty members have a minimum of 3 years, but most probably have an average about 7 years work experience. So we take individuals that have been out in the field actually doing the work day in and day out, and then we bring them in and teach them how to become teachers. And that way they get really hands-on stuff. The book tells you do this, but let me tell you, if you want to really impress your boss or your client, you do it this way, you'll get it done faster and it'll last longer. So it's all about really practical knowledge that's going to make them successful and comfortable out in the field. And so in order to help ensure that, and how we've gotten so many of these partners is we invite employers onto our campuses twice a year to give us feedback on where's the industry going, or what do we need to teach, or what's the weakness that you see in our students that we can improve upon. So it's all about giving students skills as quickly as possible to get into the workforce as quickly as possible.
I think one of the things you mentioned, Scott, that's really, really important is the fact that you solicit feedback from the people who are hiring your graduates. You've hired our graduates. Come back in, let us know what's working, what's not working, what we're doing great, where we could work.
Yeah.
So I think with that, you're really able to streamline the process of educating your students, because like you said, they don't want the experience. They don't want to, they don't want to be there for 2 years to get the 1,000 hours. They're coming to you for a reason, to get an education as quickly as possible.
Sure.
So they can get out and get a job.
Yeah.
Well, and you said something important to me, and I see Clifton put up the slide. Anyone who's talked to me knows that I always say, buildings don't teach, equipment doesn't teach, people do, okay? Right. So the quality of any program is only as good as the instructor chosen to lead it. I don't know if everyone remembers when No Child Left Behind came out.
I do.
Some states said, you know what, if our teachers don't pass these credentialing tests, they're not going to stay. And some states found out the majority of teachers couldn't teach the competencies of their programs. Our Certified Master HVAC Educator program requires someone not to pass a test, requires them to pass 7 specific ones. And as Clifton noted, 27% of all Certified Master HVAC educators are people who work at Lincoln Tech. So that's quite a testament to your staff.
That's pretty significant.
And just to give a 30,000-foot view to whoever's listening and watching, these are educator level exams. So these exams need to be passed with a score of 80 and higher. And they need to become that certified master HVACR educator, they need to take educator electricity exams, educator level electric heat exams, air conditioning exams, light commercial AC, light commercial refrigeration, a heating exam, which is either going to be gas or oil or heat pumps, depending on the geographic region
location
that they're teaching in, as well as a capstone test. It's a teaching methodologies test that helps validate that an individual not only knows the content, what he's teaching, but also how to teach.
Wow.
So one of the things that I really, really like about Lincoln's way of thinking is the fact that they address this issue. The vast majority of people in our industry have no formal training in HVAC. They learned it from other people in the trade. And our industry gets our teachers from the field. So now we have somebody who's standing in front of a classroom who has never been formally trained on how to teaching a subject that they were never formally trained on. So how do you validate that you have top-notch teachers teaching your students? You want them to get in and out in 1,000 hours.
Yep.
Well, you need quality teachers.
So
what's really neat, though, is at our educators conference, our education conference every year, we see a lot of educators and teachers, and a lot of them are, from Lincoln, because they've identified, okay, I passed the gas heat test with an 82. Okay, does that mean I could stop learning? No, there's 18% of the material I don't know. So now they're seeking out professional development. And I just want to give you props, Scott, because it's one of the institutions that I like to visit. And when I lived in New York, I did visit the Union School. I did visit the Mawa School. But I've showed up unannounced on occasion. And I've seen your teachers in a room kind of powwowing and studying together and comparing and learning and studying for these exams. And it happened actually twice in Union. I walked in unannounced, and then your teachers were just powwowing and teaching each other, the content. It's really neat to see.
Well, I like the program because, again, we have practitioners, not necessarily teachers, that we
Sure,
brought into the
absolutely.
classroom. They have a passion for what they do and they want to convey that information to the students, but I want to make sure that they're going to convey it the best way possible. I also want them to, I want to ensure that the organization kind of has a baseline understanding across the system. By having our instructors go through the program, it gives them the skills to, frankly, make them more confident and comfortable teaching in front of the students, as well as giving them the additional knowledge. Because even though they've been out in the field, they may not have worked on everything, to be honest with you. And
Absolutely.
this, again, gives them more exposure to everything and just kind of helps level set things. And it encourages their learning. I mean, all of us have to be lifelong learners. The world's changing too quickly. If you're not a lifelong learner, you're going to get left behind one way or the other. And this just helps encourage that as well.
Well, let's just think about the changes in innovation. We had a comment just came in a little bit ago. It said, with innovation, all stakeholders must take certain measures to keep up with the change, and they must embrace and move forward. If we think about educators that are not investing in themselves and investing in staying up to date with changes in technology, you'll never be in that place where you're teaching the proper skills for the students. And that's one of the things that we wanted to impress, is that continue education, that professional development, is the way to keep the educator up with the industry so that we can keep the content available for our students. Great point out there. Thank you very much, Jose, for pointing that out. All right, I'm going to back up just for a second. I got ahead of myself.
Sure.
I got excited once we started talking about the educator credentialing, because that was a very important part of where we're at in the industry and validating what we're teaching. I wanted to point out, because you'd mentioned, both of you had, about the actual classrooms themselves and some of the things that we're learning in the classroom. When it
Yeah.
comes to technology and when it comes to innovation and teaching on the equipment, just like Eugene was saying, you could be a specialist in one particular environment, but that doesn't mean that you can teach an entire program. So tell us a little bit about the different programs that you have around the country. Are they all the same? Are they standardized? Or do we base the programs and design the programs on the equipment or the regions of the country?
So our programs more or less are standardized, but HVAC is the least standardized of all of them, just for the point that
Mm,
you made. I frankly didn't think about it till hearing more feedback from our faculty members. But I grew up in the Northeast, and I thought everyone had oil heat, and
exactly.
everyone, maybe you had propane or natural gas. But obviously, in the rest of the United States, that's not the case. And so, over out in Denver, they're very much into hydronics, at least the higher elevations, and
Wow.
then using natural gas in other systems. Down south, a lot more with the heat pumps
Yep.
and split units and things of that nature, even though even in my neck of the woods, people are using split systems more and more. And so I think that we definitely have to, there's a lot of basics out there, but when it comes to the actual heating systems that are out there in the different regions, it's different. But I think it's going to become less different probably over time,
I think
especially if,
so.
depending on if we're going to continue to push and drive more people to electric forms of
Hmm.
heating and cooling and
Decarbonization,
solely electric.
electrification.
Yep,
Hmm.
heating and cooling. So obviously, there's a lot of money being pushed that way, a lot of emphasis going in that direction. So I think over time, it'll become less different, probably in the different regions, but certainly for the next decade or so, we'll be teaching people how to repair and fix oil heaters and things of that nature, certainly in the Northeast.
Yes, I'm sure. All right, a lot of great stuff here. Um, Howard, Eugene, do you have anything that we'd like to dive into a little bit deeper?
I was just going to say, I think the big thing is this, we just all came from a conference where everyone's saying we're hiring and we don't know where to find people. And I think a big thing that we need to tell people, everyone listening is probably in the trades, but doesn't know how to promote the trades.
Exactly.
And I think a big conversation we should have is why people should feel confident when they go out there. We should be ambassadors. Everyone should be talking up the trades. So to me, a big part of it is know the facts. Take a look at the Bureau of Labor statistics. 2/3 of the jobs in the HVAC industry 10 years from now will be performed by people not in the industry today. Once
Exactly.
again, not being exported, automated, great opportunity for growth. good opportunity to start your own business. So when I'm not trying to beat up on universities, we need doctors, scientists, lawyers, maybe not so much, but it's the idea that people really need to look at where's the opportunities in your area.
Yeah. If I
And
look back at, go ahead,
yeah,
Eugene.
I just wanted to put the dot on Howard's I. When driving cars are cool, sports cars, you see them rolling down the street. So are young people, oh, I want to become an auto mechanic. I want to learn how cars work. I want to learn how to fix cars. HVAC, when done correctly, is a completely invisible industry. If an air conditioning system is properly designed, properly sized, properly installed, properly charged, properly maintained, you should not hear an air conditioning system turn on or off. You should not have cold spots and warm spots as you move from room to room. Or the work we do, our air handlers are installed in attics and basements. Our ductwork is in walls. Our condensing units, our outdoor units are hidden behind the houses, behind the buildings. So if we do our jobs correctly, nobody sees what we do. You ask a homeowner, oh, what brand of air conditioning system do you have? And they run to the thermostat and recite whatever name is on that thermostat.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, that's the brand of air conditioning system.
My Honeywell works great.
You said it.
I've heard it many a times out in the industry.
Yeah, we've all heard it. So for those of us in the industry, we know what a great industry it is. We make a good living in our industry. And for those of you who are listening and watching who are not in the industry, you can make a lot of money in this industry.
Just go look up the hashtag HVAC paid for it, and you see exactly what we're talking about.
Yeah, but the thing is, we need to talk about our industry, or nobody will know about it.
Nobody knows.
Yeah.
Well, and the thing is here, so Scott, if your family comes over, they notice a new car in the driveway or new counters or something new in the house, no one ever says, can I go up in the attic and check out the new heat pump?
Yeah.
Or the wall wirings in there.
If we all had to install our air conditioning and heating equipment on the front lawns of our homes,
it'd be a different environment.
Imagine how popular HVAC would be.
So true. And when you talk about,
so a little bit nerdy, I've gone over some new friends' homes that put in radiant floor heating and things of that nature, and it's like going into a ship when you go down to their boiler room or something. That can be exciting, but yes, not enough people do that. I was also just going to say, as far as the challenges, we find that probably a third of our students have someone within the industry, which is why they've decided to enter the industry.
Exactly.
It's very hard to bring newer people into the industry, is they just don't understand what it is or what the job entails, or frankly, even that it really exists. And it goes back to, I know something that's probably been on this show before, is the fact that we've taken so many VOTEC programs out of the high schools that we're just not exposing people to things that could be done with one's hands. Excuse me, let me turn that off.
Sure. No, absolutely.
And I'll say this real quick. All of us, when we went to school, shop class, vocational programs, wasn't just in high school. It was in your middle school or junior high, woodworking, sheet metal. So we got older, automotive, electronics. And you find that so seldom today, so kids aren't exposed to it.
Exactly.
And we kind of joke that a lot of the kids today, when we all grew up, we took things apart, we tinkered. Today, they're also not exposed to that because we have sealed systems. Exactly, Eugene. If it's broken, we take it back to Best Buy or throw it away. So they're not exposed to those opportunities.
But I do see opportunity, but it's going to be like a battleship changing and take a long time to catch up. Two examples that I've witnessed at Lincoln. One, we've started discussions with KIPP, which is a charter school in Newark, New Jersey. And their whole focus was give students an opportunity to get to college. They quickly learned after over a decade of doing this that A, not every student that goes through their system wants to go to college, and B, not every student is really capable to go to college. And so they're looking for what's a great alternative then for them. and they're looking to build this bridge to have students who on their own they've been coming to Lincoln, but now they want to make it more formalized. So I think that that's kind of indicative of this whole mindset: send everyone to college, just push them all through, and people are realizing, that isn't the best thing for everyone, but it's going to take a long time. Second of all, we just had some conversations with the Board of Education in Newark, who is setting up now specialized schools for different trades, from medical trades to the skilled trades, to aviation trades. And so they're realizing that there is a great need within this, certainly in the state of New Jersey and every state, to start getting more people exposed to this. And they realize now that they really need to start doing it at the high school level. But as I said, these are things that have just happened over the last 12 months. And by the time they get implemented and expanded, you're talking decades before the ship gets turned around.
Absolutely. I think back about my days in high school and nearing graduation. If you were mechanical and intelligent, you either went to college or you went to the military. That was the two primary options. The trade schools were never really discussed as an intellectual opportunity. It wasn't until later in life, into my 20s, when I realized exactly how lucrative the trades could be. So when we look at our program, Scott, do we see people going directly from high school into the trades, or are they experiencing life and, like you've said, had someone in the family mentioning, and then they finally get a third-hand perspective that the trades are a good place to be? What does that look like from your side?
Yeah, it's a good question. So at Lincoln, the average age of our student is around 26 or 27. However, we do have about 20% who are coming out of high school. So we do go around to high schools with, we have about 90 different admissions guidance counselors that go into the schools and tell them, frankly, about the trades and about these opportunities. But I'd say most of them, the younger people, if they're interested in something, will go into maybe automotive, or some reason welding. Welding's very popular. I'm not quite sure.
I noticed that.
I don't know if there's a TV show out there with welders or something, but welding seems to be just very popular. As I said earlier, people that go into HVAC, we do have some high school students that do, but that's because Uncle Joe was an HVAC person, or their father or their brother went into it, and that's why they're doing it. The older students that come to us just realize, as we were discussing earlier, they might have been working in retail or at hospitality and realizing they can't make a living, and they've spoken to someone else, or they see a friend who's doing something in the trades and realize, boy, that's what I should do. And that's why they come back to us.
Nice. Have you seen that 20% that are high school? Has that been increasing over time, or has that been a relatively consistent number?
I'd say it's relatively consistent. Hasn't dramatically increased or decreased for us.
Wow. So we have a lot of work to do on building up the awareness of what the trades can do at our younger ages.
I think, Clifton, one of the problems is that too many guidance counselors either don't know, or they're judged by the community and the parents. If they're saying, well, you should do this. Exactly. And what a lot of parents don't understand until we get to talk to them, what does your child like to do, your son or daughter? Oh, they love science. Well, did you know that we do chemistry and physics and HVAC? I didn't know that. We could bring these concepts to life. Yeah. And, while we're bringing that up, if there's people watching, we should be recruiting not just men, women into this. This is a great opportunity for everybody.
But one of the hot topics, we're always talking about STEM, right? Science, technology, engineering, and math. And what people don't realize, and what we need to get out there, is HVAC is the epitome of STEM. Everything we do. At the college I worked for, we were going to construct a brand new STEM center. And the college prepared a list of the programs that were going to be moved into this STEM center. And HVAC wasn't on the list. So I showed up at the meeting with my psychrometric charts and my pressure enthalpy charts and textbooks, and to show, if this is not science, technology, engineering, and math, what is? We are the epitome of STEM.
Love it.
And it's practical STEM. It's like you're learning science, but you're looking at something that you deal with day in and day out. So it makes it, I think, more relevant and sticks in people's minds better than certain concepts that get, taught at schools.
What I always did, I came up with a neat list, and I have to find it at some point, but it was all the things that we do and all the things on which we rely on a daily basis that would not be possible without HVAC.
That's an
But
interesting
I think
list.
Howard lives in
what we do
Howard
is
lives
part
in
of the problem.
Yeah, Howard lives in Denver. He can go to his local supermarket and get Maine lobster tails. How do they get there? I mean, all of the things that we rely on. Again, the vitamins we take, the foods we eat. We get fresh flowers from around the world. How do they get there? How do they get? So it's like it's really, really interesting if you think about the hundreds and hundreds of things we rely on every day that would not be there if we didn't have air conditioning and refrigeration.
All kinds of produce all year long.
Scott, one of the things that I encounter quite often is parents that are skeptical of putting their children into trades programs with the fear of not having a successful career, with not having a lucrative career. I've heard you touch on this topic before in some very impactful ways. Can you explain some of the benefits of being in the trades if as a parent that is kind of researching the possibility of their child going into the trades after, say, high school?
Sure. So it is a big issue. As we said earlier, guidance counselors unfortunately steer people away. Parents do. I mean, it's a lot easier at a cocktail party or a group gathering to tell, well, what college is your son or daughter going to? And if you don't tell them they're going to college, they kind of maybe raise their eyebrows or give you a look. And so unfortunately, we constantly reinforce this negativity towards it. But as we've been talking about, and as I've witnessed and seen our students who've graduated, our programs are shorter. They're getting a skill that's a lifetime skill. They're getting into an industry which isn't going away. And just everything about our society is going to require more HVAC type systems,
going forward,
whether it's to keep us more comfortable if things get warmer, or to keep our networks running because everyone's on the internet. And the beauty is, or the excitement around it all is that it's improving. The technology is improving. So you can keep a room cooler these days with less energy. And it's only going to become even better probably in the future. So it's a career that's not going away. The need's increasing. As we mentioned earlier, you can't outsource it. A robot can't do this. Someone in China or India can't do this. And so you've got a lifetime career. As well as what I'll say also, but if you get into an industry, let's say we have a partnership with Johnson Controls that I didn't talk about, or in Hussmann. These are large corporations. You could be a tradesperson, let's say for the first 10 years, and then move on into management. I have one of my bosses on my board is a Lincoln Tech graduate. Now he's not HVAC, but he's automotive. He graduated while he was in school to help pay for his education. He unloaded UPS trucks or loaded them with packages. Sure. He graduated as a diesel tech, went to go work for UPS. 42 years later, he's now retiring this month, and he runs and oversees every piece of equipment in UPS's global network around the world. And he loves to tell the people from Harvard and others that work for him, I went to a trade school. And I'm sorry, where did you go to school again?
Where?
Tell me. And
Are you still paying for that school?
Yeah. And so there are just lots of opportunities. There's nothing that I believe should hold someone back. And the reality is, you can always go back to college if your job requires it, or you need that additional skill for whatever it is. You could be a tradesperson and you want to have your own business, but you want to maybe learn more managerial skills. You don't have to go get a full year degree or anything. You can go online and take a course and develop that skill set so you get the confidence to move and advance yourself. So I see no downside whatsoever in going into any of these fields.
Well, Scott, many people today work on virtual terminals. VMware, the CEO, the inventor, where did he go to school? Lincoln Tech.
Well, he went to our school. Actually, he's now the CEO of Intel. So he's moved up. So he started off on a farm outside of Allentown. He got a scholarship to our school. We had an electronics program. Now, he's a very gifted individual. I can't say it's all because of Lincoln Tech, because he did go on to Berkeley and Stanford afterwards.
Right.
But we sparked his interest. We allowed him to
Exactly.
explore what he wanted to do, and then he took it on from there. But that's what the trades can do. It's just another way of thinking, another way of working with your hands. Not everyone wants to sit in a cubicle in front of a computer all day. A lot of people want to be out and moving around and working in different environments with different people. And if you're in the HVAC or any of these industries, every day you're in a new environment with new challenges. It's not so repetitive as many other jobs can be.
Should we change the narrative where everyone says, "Where's your child going to college?" to saying, "Where's your child going for post-secondary training?"
Oh,
Yes.
Because then we're talking about the vast majority
equal
of
playing
jobs, it's over
platform.
90% require post-secondary training, about
Yep.
67% post-secondary technical, so that it's not as uncomfortable to say, "Oh, I'm going to a trade school, a community college." They've joined an apprenticeship program or they're going into the military.
Yep.
Absolutely. Wonderful stuff. We could go on for hours on this, guys. These are such beautiful topics to be discussing, and we're so grateful to have the opportunity. I think we're going to go ahead and start wrapping things up. We're getting close to an hour. Let's hop over to the chat. I see some really good comments coming through. Anybody have any questions? Any other comments about trade schools and looking at trade schools for an option for yourself or for your children? We'll give it just a couple minutes, and I'm going to throw out some resources as well. Anybody wants to follow up with this discussion? One resource that I knew of was www.lincolntech.edu. Scott, is there any other places you'd like to direct people to?
Nope. If they go there, they'll get to see it all.
Exactly. And we've had a couple questions coming in asking how to find out more about HVAC excellence. You can go to www.escogroup.org, find out more about all the things that the ESCO group does, including ESCO Institute and HVAC excellence. All right, Howard, Eugene, any last minute things you would like to ask of Scott? Or
I think we did a really good job of covering a lot.
I know I have
A
a
lot
lot
to
of things I
digest,
want
a lot to unpack.
to.
We're all just getting home from the AHR show. I think I
Yeah.
left my voice in Atlanta, so I might
I'm
have to go
hearing
back
you.
and get it. But between that show and this discussion, I mean, there's a lot to unpack.
Yeah.
This definitely is not going to be the end of this conversation.
No, I hope not.
No, and I think all of us are passionate. We're preaching to the choir.
Exactly.
Those out there need to understand there's great jobs in the trades. Just pick a great school, and there's so much opportunity.
Yeah.
And I guess the only thing that I will say for those that are in the trades, I know that our students, if you end up hiring any of them, just in general, students today really are looking for mentors, and they're looking for an
Absolutely.
opportunity to work with someone. And what we hear often is after they've been employed, companies that don't provide that additional, I'll say, support and encouragement and training tend to lose these individuals over time. And so anyone coming out of school, you always get that superstar that is able to push ahead. But in order to hold on to people in this field, you really need to offer some opportunities from a training standpoint, just so that the students can really gain the skills that they need to be productive for you and have a rewarding career for them.
So I'm going to send a challenge out there then for everybody who's listening, who's a graduate of a trade school, who might be a contractor now with employees. Reach out to your local schools. Be it a public school, be it a community college, be it a proprietary school, and just approach those program directors and say, I want to help the future of our industry. What can I do to help you? Can I be a part of your advisory board committee? How can I help move this industry forward? As we get older in this industry, now it's about giving back. Now it's about, helping the future. So take this as a personal challenge. Like I said, if you can thank a Votech teacher, school, institution for your career, give back.
Payback.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I think we're going to call it a wrap. I thank you all so much for joining Did You Know, the ESCO HVAC show. Scott, this has been a pleasure, and I hope that we have helped shed some light to our industry with the evolution. I keep calling this an evolution. You're either going to be on the evolution side or the revolution side, but we are moving forward, and it's our industry partners that are going to make this a successful evolution into an advanced HVAC industry. Thank you so much, and we will see you next week. Thank you for joining Did You Know, the ESCO HVAC show, brought to you by the ESCO Institute and HVAC Excellence. Our mission is to bring the top educators of the industry here for you in a live, unique experience so that you can join us from multiple social platforms, all with the opportunity to ask questions, to be involved, and to learn about the things that are changing in our industry as they are changing. Subscribe to our YouTube channel to get notifications when we go live every week. Are you an educator looking for resources to be the best that you can be? Man, you're in the right place. And we invite you to come join us at the National HVACR Education Conference, where we bring all of these guests and many more, along with manufacturers and different organizations of the trade, so that we can all be in one place at one time and gather this information to make us better together. How do you learn more? Go to escogroup.org, select HVAC Excellence, and then the conference. I look forward to seeing you again next week on Did You Know, the ESCO HVAC show.